When you think about some of the most expensive things in the world, stuff like gold and diamond comes to mind almost every time. We have gold at around $60 per gram, but if we talk about heroin, that's double the price of gold, around $130 for a gram. It starts to get a little ridiculous with cocaine at $236 per gram and LSD at around $3,000. But even if we keep going, we'll reach the top of the list with diamonds at $55,000 for a gram. So what exactly is antimatter, and why are we looking at an insane price tag of $25 billion for a gram? It's pretty interesting, so just sit back and enjoy the video. And if you're still not subscribed to our channel, take out a second to do just that. To understand antimatter, we will need to get a little scientific, so bear with us for a minute. Let's get down to the atomic level. I'm sure you know that everything is made up of atoms, albeit trillions and trillions and trillions of them make up a small object. Well, antimatter is the same as matter, except that it has opposite characteristics. As all atoms in matter contain protons, so do all the atoms in antimatter. But they carry an opposite charge and are called antiprotons. So we have protons in the atoms of matter and antiprotons in the atoms of antimatter. Similarly, electrons carry the opposite charge in antimatter and are called positrons. That may sound complicated, but that's only the tip of the iceberg. But here's something really interesting. Everything about the importance of antimatter has to do with one phenomenon. Basically, when matter and antimatter touch one another, they instantly destroy each other and, in turn, release 100% energy. Okay, great, they release energy, so what? The release of 100% energy is not a small matter, not at all. What are some of the most efficient reactions you can think of? How about a nuclear weapon that can cause such a disastrous amount of damage with negligible material? Well, that process can only convert between 7 to 10% of its matter to energy. That's right, the nuclear weapons we know can destroy cities, so the release of 100% energy is something clearly very powerful, and there is no argument for the need for energy. Energy is life itself. Today, everything that we get our hands on is artificially powered with energy. Our lives revolve around energy. What if you were carrying a single gram of antimatter and threw it on the ground? Do you have any clue what would happen? An explosion, perhaps? Well, yes, but that explosion would be much, much larger than the one that happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But hey, we don't have a gram of antimatter, so that's only hypothetical. How about we bring it down a notch and talk about, say, 1/1000th of a gram of antimatter? That has to be much more economically feasible. That's correct, but would it cause any damage? Absolutely. If you attach that 1/1000th of a gram of positrons to a regular bullet and fired it at, say, a house, you could very well expect complete destruction of the house. The same can be said for a tank or a building. So is it all that antimatter is good for? Sheer destruction? Absolutely not. In fact, there are potentially a lot of benefits to antimatter apart from just military ones, and they are just as much, if not more, amazing. For starters, there have been some studies that show that antiprotons actually have the ability to cure some cancers. That's amazing, but that's not all. There has been a lot of work done to see how antimatter could be used as a fuel in interstellar travel. I'm sure you can imagine why that fuel would be worth so much more compared to any sort of fuel that we use today. What's interstellar travel, you ask? That's the kind of travel we do in space over absolutely huge distances, such as between galaxies and stars. Well, we don't actually do it because these places are very, very far away. We're talking about light years. Let's say we had to travel to Proxima Centauri, which is the closest star to Earth outside our solar system. That is more than 4 light years away. That means that even light takes about 4 years to get from there to here. And since light has the fastest speed in the entire universe, you can probably begin to see the problem here. The fastest spaceship we have built has 1/18,000th the speed of light. If, however, we try to use antimatter as a fuel, we could be able to achieve half the speed of light for travel. Now that's pretty amazing. That means we could actually approach Proxima Centauri in just 8 years. That probably doesn't sound as good. We currently require 6 months to send probes to Mars. With that speed, Mars will be approachable in about 6 minutes. Now that's amazing, isn't it? If antimatter is so powerful and so useful, why exactly aren't we already going after it? Well, the thing is that antimatter is extremely hard and equally expensive to produce. Theoretically speaking, when the Big Bang happened, the universe should have equal amounts of matter and antimatter. For all we know, there are galaxies out there completely made out of antimatter. But we haven't detected any yet, because it's nowhere close to us. Some do get produced outside the atmosphere of the Earth as the sun shines, but it instantly gets destroyed by colliding with the matter. So not only is antimatter impossible to locate, it's actually almost impossible to contain. Are we actually producing any antimatter on Earth right now? Absolutely. Well, the Hadron Collider does just the job in Switzerland under the European Organization for Nuclear Research, CERN. This was actually one of the most expensive facilities built on Earth due to the insanely complex and sophisticated systems. CERN produces antiprotons by the minute when it is fully operational. We're looking at a number of 10 million antiprotons every minute. Do not be fooled by that number because it is very, very small. That's right. 10 million antiprotons give us next to nothing if you want to achieve a seemingly simple goal of producing just 1 gram of antimatter. In fact, let's assume that CERN continues to produce that amount every single minute continuously. It would take humanity more than 100 billion years to develop just a single gram of antimatter. So yes, we're still very far away from getting there. The problem is that the production of antimatter was only one part of the problem. Even if we were to magically get our hands on more than a single gram of antimatter, we have absolutely no idea how we would store it. Storing something like antimatter is incredibly complex. You can't just put an antiproton in a box as the moment it interacts with matter, it produces an explosion, larger than a nuclear bomb. So yes, something like suspending it mid-air comes to mind, and there are plenty of similar ideas that are theoretically possible, but that's for very small amounts, such as single antiprotons. For larger amounts, we would likely have no idea what to do. So in this video, we have quoted a price of $25 billion for a gram, because that was the price that was quoted in a paper released by NASA. But in another paper, they quoted the price at an astounding $62.5 trillion for a single gram. Again, that is not something remotely normal, as that is equivalent to about 83% of the global GDP. So suppose we somehow found out how we were going to solve the storage problem and ramp up production so high that we can obtain its goal. In other words, if it was just money which was a problem, 83% of the world would have to dedicate each penny of its resources to be able to meet the cost requirements. That's something now, isn't it? Anyway, that will be all from this video. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, make sure to comment down your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.